International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOIL and Agricultural Development Bank.
Coming up on International Trade Focus, we'll be bringing you highlights of the Africa Prosperity Dialogues 2024. And later, Ghana's per capita cocoa consumption is said to have increased from 0.4 kg to 1 kg following the successful implementation of various interventions.
Hi there, my name is Anastio and this is International Trade Focus. Now on this week's episode, I'm here to take you through the Africa Prosperity Dialogues, an exciting event where big ideas meet big actions to create a better tomorrow for our continent. This year, we are diving into the powerful theme of delivering prosperity in Africa, produce, add value and trade. Now this is all about growing what we have, making it even better and sharing it with the world. We're looking at how we can turn our local treasures into global successes and make sure that everyone benefits. So absolutely stay tuned as we bring you all the highlights and inspiring moments from the Africa Prosperity Dialogues. It's going to be an incredible journey through the ideas and initiatives shaping Africa's path to prosperity. You wouldn't want to miss this. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOIL Good Energy, ADB, Truly, Agric and more, Public Elegance and Pediasi Valley Resorts.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Are you an importer or exporter? Do you need quick financing at the best rate on the market? ADB has good news for you. Walk into any agricultural development bank location nationwide for that solution to all your trade financing needs. ADB offers you pre-financing of exports and imports, post-shipment credit facilities, bank guarantees, the issuance and acceptance of letters of credit, documentary bills for collection, outward documentary collection. Enjoy free advisory services from our well-trained dedicated trade officers. Exporters of agricultural products are encouraged to take advantage of this great service. For further enquiries, call us on 0302 210 210. ADB, making trade finance easy. ADB, Truly Agric and more.
What is all this? Why can't we ever seem to get this right? Our meetings are always chaotic, and that's why we are never able to plan efficiently. I have to do something now.
Yes, don't we all love solutions? The Pediasi Valley Resort welcomes you to the stunning surrounds of the Eastern Highlands of Ghana for your next business meeting, seminar, retreat, or conference.
All their venues are equipped with the latest audiovisual technology as well as their very able conference and banqueting staff. At Pediasi Valley Resort, you will work in peace and relaxation, coupled with scenes and adventures at the Bree Botanical Gardens, the Art Village, and many more. If you find yourself in my situation, remember, Pediasi Valley Resort is your #1 solution. Pediasi Valley Resort. Live life.
Now this week's episode features highlights of the Africa Prosperity Dialogues. This year's event was under the theme Delivering Prosperity in Africa, Produce, Add Value and Trade. Now this focuses on elevating our local treasures to global successes, ensuring that there's widespread benefits. Stay tuned for all the highlights and inspiring moments from this exciting event.
Where we are today is called the Peduase Lodge. It was, over 60 years ago, the official retreat of Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah. So being here today is a continuation of the dream of those men and women who fought for Africa's independence from colonialization and who believed that the best route for Africa was to unite. And to quote Nkrumah then, Nkrumah said, "For centuries, Africa has been the milk cow of the Western world. We have the resources. It was colonialism in the first place that prevented us from accumulating the effective capital. But we ourselves have failed to make full use of our power and independence to mobilize our resources for the most effective takeoff into thoroughgoing economic and social development. A union that ignores these fundamental necessities will be but a sham. It is only by uniting our productive capacity and the resultant production that we can amass capital. And once we start, the momentum will increase. With capital controlled by our banks, harnessed to our own through industrial and agricultural development, we shall make our advance." This was 61 years ago in Addis Ababa. And the difference then was that, to quote Nkrumah again, he said the social and economic development of Africa will come only within the political kingdom, not the other way round. However, this was over 60 years ago. But 6 years ago in Kigali, there was palpable enthusiasm, and perhaps an enthusiasm that we'd never seen on this continent from our political leaders when it came to the time to sign up to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The speed with which they signed up to that document, the document that said that it is not necessarily the political freedom that we should seek, but our economic freedom. And that the best way to achieve that economic freedom should be through economic integration. And economic integration is understanding that our economies on their own, individually, still based on the maps that were drawn some centuries ago in Berlin, is not the way to go, but that we should have an Africa without borders. We are here today to give implementation to what the political leaders gave us in Kigali. They've given us a roadmap to unite, and that roadmap to unity is through economic empowerment, economic integration. And if that is to happen, it is not the political leaders who will make it happen. It is the business leaders. And in this room, there are business leaders from north of Africa. There are business leaders from east of Africa. There are business leaders from West Africa. There are business leaders from Southern Africa. There are business leaders from Central Africa. And of course, they are business leaders from global Africa. And if all these business leaders begin to see themselves as one unit, to think together, plan together, work together on how, with urgency, we deliver this promise, we deliver this roadmap that's been offered to us by the political leaders, I think we will get there. This is Africa's century, because what we have everything that we require to make it. But what we require now is how we work together. How we work together. I have a saying that I would rather have 10% of 100 than 100% of 100. What it means is that I share my risks. What it means is that I share my knowledge, and then we bring together our collective knowledge. Whether I have the 10% of the 100, the others with the other 10% will bring their knowledge, their expertise, and then we benefit together. So that's why we are here. Why is it that our commercial banks prefer to fund importation rather than manufacturing? We should ask ourselves those questions. What is it that they require the politicians to do in order for them to do what is required to add value to our economy? Why is it that when I travel to the UK, I can make calls from my Ghanaian phone and be charged roaming, and that money will go to perhaps the entity over there? But when I'm in Nigeria or Kenya, I can't have interoperability. Within Europe, there are no roaming charges, but on the continent, there are roaming charges. What is it that stops us from being able to transfer money from Ghana to Nigeria, from Nigeria to Kenya, on that device? If we do so, a small trader in Nairobi can buy from Joburg without having to go through the dollar. These are questions, the answers are within us and with us. It's about political leadership. It's about businesses being able to articulate what they require from the political leaders. And it's about the political leaders being able to tell business that these are our expectations. So we are here today. We've had 2 days of talk. But the talk that we had were actionable talk. They were talks that if we believe in ourselves, believe in the economic integration project of Africa, that we can implement.
Last year, the first African Prosperity Dialogue has ended with solid commitments to accelerate AfCFTA implementation, to make this very important commitment made by African heads of states and government a reality. It was also an opportunity where partners expressed their commitment to increase to government and businesses to realize the AfCFTA potential, particularly for women and youth, as mentioned in the compact adopted during that summit. This second edition of the Africa Prosperity Dialogues should help us evaluate what has been done and achieved in 1 year since you all voted to enhance efforts for speedy realization of the agreement by pushing ahead Africa's industrial development and integration agenda, and also remain accountable for its implementation. The challenges we have faced in recent years, from COVID-19, conflicts, climate change, to the impact of crises around the world, has made it abundantly clear that what Africa needs is a sustainable but also resilient economy. Africa suffers, lacks food and fertilizers because of conflicts happening in another hemisphere. This has definitely to change. As I keep on saying many times, it has become increasingly difficult to explain to the young generation of this young continent of ours that we indeed have a rich continent endowed with enormous resources and yet with the poorest population on earth. So this is not just a matter of yet another project that we agreed on, the AFCFTA, but a matter in ensuring the future of our continent. 2024 should be a year where we fast-track the implementation of our critical continental aspirations with renewed commitment, vigor, and seriousness. My presence here today should signify and qualify the Ethiopian government's commitment for an enhanced trading regime in Africa. To this end, Ethiopia is constantly engaging with the AFCFTA Secretariat so that negotiations would culminate in the adoption of a framework acceptable to all. Our commitment is unwavering. Lifting our population from poverty is our main priority, as I know it is also yours. We can only be better off if we are in this together, not only by words, but through concrete actions, measurable through clear indicators. Before I conclude, let me just say that forums such as this are pertinent. Most of the time, the engagement of businesses and governments are seen as opaque. Such relationships elsewhere enjoy formal status under different names, whereas government-to-business relationships in Africa are most of the time tarnished as schemes of corruption, embezzlement, and the like. Only a meaningful engagement remains crucial, both at policy and practical actions levels. I'm happy to see many of the business community and partners gathered here today. I understand the business retreat the past 2 days to establish the compact to be presented to the summit have been a very interactive one, and we have seen the outcome a few moments ago. I would like to express Ethiopia's appreciation to you, Mr. President, to the business community, but also to all entities who have collaborated in organizing the annual Africa Prosperity Dialogues. It is expected from all African institutions concerned in the realization of AFCFTA to work even more closely than before, learn from our achievements, but also from our shortcomings. I fully agree with the executive chairman of APN. Africa has the means to its ambitions. We indeed have what it takes. There is no dream which is too big or impossible. In fact, listening to the previous panel, it reminds me what we did back home. In building with our own resources a dam, Africa needs more dams to develop, but it is possible to do it with what you have. Our airline can also be quoted as a good example in a public-owned enterprise that can do the work.
One of the things I want to recognize very early is that Africa has been a place of fearless leadership. And recently, South Africa reminded us that Africa remains a place where fearless leaders exist, always standing up for the right side, on the right side of things and on the right side of humanity. I think we owe it to South Africa. My own country experienced recently the resounding support of Africa leadership at the UN Security Council when we came under threat. And I want to thank all the leaders of Africa and your representatives at the UN for the support that you would have given us. Very rarely we acknowledge the significant contribution Africa makes to our global community because we get fixed on responding to the negativity that is out there. But I think on occasions like these, We give ourselves an excellent opportunity to showcase the difference we can make, to showcase the opportunities we bring, and to showcase the ideas we can contribute to solving global problems and global issues. And why not? We sit today in a region where 30% of the world's mineral reserve reside. 8% of the world's natural gas. For a matter of fact, 55 countries in Africa has proven natural gas reserves. 40% of the world's gold and 90% of the world's chromium and platinum. The largest reserve of diamond, platinum, uranium, 65% of the world's arable land, and 10% of the planet's internal renewable fresh water source. That is what the region possesses. How are we going to deploy this to solve the global issues surrounding climate security, energy security, food security, and human transformation? We have been blessed in this region with the natural assets to provide the solution. We have been blessed with the brain power to provide the ideas and the policies that can lead to the solution. What is required is a commitment to action, a commitment to meeting targets, and a commitment to staying on track with the targets we set. The issue of foreign direct investment, economic sovereignty are important issues that we must address. In Guyana, for example, we are now a new kid on the block in relation to oil and gas, the oil and gas sector. And we understand how economic sovereignty is important for us. That is why we wanted to enact a legislation that ensures local content and local participation. And where did we go to get this legislation? Of course, there were many offers, but we came to Ghana and we got the best possible legislation with the support from Ghana for our local content law. Today, I want to thank His Excellency and the government of Ghana for their strong support in helping us as we continue to build the institutional and structural arrangement in this new sector. As the sitting chair of CARICOM, I cannot leave this podium without pointing out some important facts. That is, less than 0.1% of African export is destined for Caribbean countries in 2020. The share of exports from Africa to the Caribbean trended downwards since 2015. The share of export from the Caribbean to Africa also displayed a similar trend since 2015. The continent also accounted for less than 1% of Caribbean exports. Trade between Africa and the region is highly concentrated around primary minerals. More than 40% of the Caribbean exports to Africa are chemicals. These are things that we need to fix. The opportunities are there for massive increases in the trade between Africa and the Caribbean. But there are things that we have to fix. We have to fix the trade barriers. We have to fix the issues of transport and logistics. We have to fix the rules between ourselves that will help to stimulate trade and advance trade between our countries. There's tremendous opportunities as we seek to have the issue of food security resolved within the region. And when you look at our region population, you may say that our population is very small. But what we give to Africa, to investors from Africa, is access to a market of over 400 million people in which we have trade arrangement and trade agreement. How do we position Africa in the global system? And this is what we must do. we have to examine this question. How do we position Africa in the global system to be more resilient, sustainable, and competitive? And my dear friend from Ethiopia addressed some very fundamental issues. We must show to the world that we can produce the best system of governance, that we can produce democratic societies, and that we can stand at all times on the side of the rule of law and democracy. And that would allow us to demonstrate that we are serious about ensuring Africa is resilient, sustainable, and competitive. How do we build a winning culture? Today, in this forum, I want to recommend that we seriously examine the issue of technology, AI, digitization, and robotics. These are going to be the challenges of the future. We cannot speak about prosperity if we do not start addressing these issues now. We have seen already, we are always playing the catch-up game. When the world went ahead with industrialization, we were catching up to be competitive, to become industrialized. Now the world is heading apace with digitization and AI. And unless we confront these challenges now, unless we are able to build the structures and institutions that allow us to confront these challenges now, we'll continue to play the catch-up game. So we need to look at the regulations. We need to work together in addressing the impact AI and digitization would have on our competitiveness and our economies in its totality. We have to ensure that we are on that table when we talk about energy transition, the role of natural gas, the role of petroleum. We cannot be off of that table. We have to let our voices be heard on that table because it is an important subject for us when we speak about energy security. On food security, we cannot have 65% of the arable land and not be the leader on the issue of food security and not be developing the policies and the framework that would lead to a world in which food security is addressed, in which hunger is addressed, in which poverty is addressed through food security in the production of food. We must be on that table providing the leadership. Importantly, I want to close that we cannot leave without addressing a very important issue. How do we build trust among ourselves? We cannot work together if we don't trust each other. We have to build trust among ourselves at the political level and at the level of the private sector. Building trust is a process. Building trust takes time, building relationship, expanding network. And that is why the private sector helps the political system sometimes. Because the private sector is taking the leading role. What Professor Orama is doing is taking the leading role in showing how we can develop a model that enhances trust. And then the political system will have to follow to support the building of that trust and building of relationship. What we should do is to recreate the narrative, recreate the global brand of who we are, to redefine who we are in the global brand, because that is what is going to ensure we're taken seriously, and we want the world to know that they must take us seriously.
You're watching International Trade Focus. Stay tuned for some more highlights on the Africa Prosperity Dialogues. Don't go away.
What is all this? Why can't we ever seem to get this right? Our meetings are always chaotic, and that's why we are never able to plan efficiently. I have to do something now.
Yes, don't we all love solutions? The Tijjasi Valley Resort welcomes you to the stunning surrounds of the Eastern Highlands of Ghana for your next business meeting, seminar, retreat, or conference.
All their venues are equipped with the latest audiovisual technology as well as their very able conference and banqueting staff. At Tijjasi Valley Resort, you will work in peace and relaxation, coupled with scenes and adventures at the Bree Botanical Gardens, the Art Village, and many more. If you find yourself in my situation, remember, Tijjasi Valley Resort is your #1 solution. Tijjasi Valley Resort. Live life.
lessons learned from COVID-19 and subsequent overlapping crises, including geopolitical conflicts, which affect the global economy and African economies, prove to us that there is no other option for Africa's prosperity than African integration. I commend the progress made in implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area since its establishment in 2018 in Kigali, Rwanda. But a lot more remains to be done to fully turn the AFCFTA potential into a tangible development impact for our continent. It is not acceptable that Africa continues to be marginalized in the global trade after over 6 decades of independence. It is not acceptable for Africa to continue to produce what it does not consume and to consume what it does not produce. It is not acceptable that intra-African trade remains the lowest intra-regional trade globally. And it is not acceptable that Africa is the poorest region in the world, despite being rich in natural resources, including those that are critical for the modern industry. I therefore commend the theme of this summit, focused on production, value addition, and trade to deliver Africa's prosperity. We have all key ingredients to achieve Africa's prosperity: abundant natural resources, abundant and growing human resources, and we have political leaders and business leaders who can drive the transformation of Africa towards prosperity. What we need is firm commitments to work together as political leaders and business leaders to optimize the use of these resources for Africa's prosperity. Let's remove all barriers to free movement of people, goods, services, and capital across the continent. Let's work together, public and private sectors, to add value to our raw materials and increase intra-African trade and exports to the rest of the world. Ghana has started and is currently producing high-quality chocolates from its cocoa beans, but we need to see them in supermarkets across Africa. Rwanda also has enabled investments in the manufacturing industry, including agro-processing, construction materials, textile, and pharmaceuticals for its domestic market and African market and beyond. We need to work together to address the issue of transport and the logistics in Africa to allow a competitive distribution of goods and people in Africa. We need also to strengthen our financial institutions to finance investment in Africa and to contribute to the intra-African trade and investment. Excellencies, to conclude, good things are happening in Africa towards greater integration and toward prosperity. But we need to do more and faster. Together we can. I thank you.
The Africa Prosperity Network's impact runs deep, based on a clear vision to promote Africa beyond aid, reshaping the way people think about this great continent and supporting leaders as they take bold steps forward in trade, commerce, economic policies, political conduct, and culture, which will surely bring prosperity to the peoples of Africa. Your vision and your work reflects the power and potential of a continent which is rising. We live in a turbulent and troubled world. We are facing economic and environmental crises and threats to our collective security, which are complex, interlinked, persistent, and grave. None of us are out of their reach, and none of us can escape their impact. At the same time, we have more tools to face these crises than at any other time in human history. The stock of our collective genius, the relentless accelerating power of technological progress, and the connections between principles and between peoples have never been greater. It is the determination to face these crises together and to seize these opportunities together which has shaped my tenure as Commonwealth Secretary General, just as my determination to stand up against injustice and my faith in the power of people to create change have shaped my life. Each of us here knows that Africa is already leading. Last year, sub-Saharan Africa and African countries grew at more than twice the pace of advanced economies. Through the energy transition, the oil and gas value chain, and by enhancing intra- and inter-African trade under the Continental Free Trade Agreement, you are driving a new way of doing business. And with youth making up 60% of sub-Saharan African population, the future is full of promise, energy, and enterprise. African Commonwealth countries are leading this trend. 15 of the 21 Commonwealth economies will experience higher growth, a higher growth rate than the global average in the next 2 years. And your place within the Commonwealth offers a profound advantage. We are all part of a family of 2.5 billion people in 56 nations, spread across the 5 continents and all the great basins of our one shared oceans. We share history, we share interests, we share advantages, and above all, we share indelible values to which we all subscribe and aspire. We stand together. We work together. We do business at 21% lower cost than countries outside the Commonwealth. We grow together to an astonishing 150 trillion US dollars in combined physical, natural, and human capital since I became Secretary General in 2016. Today, in this technological and data-driven world, in 2024, the Commonwealth Programme of support, assistance, and leadership for and with our member states is more comprehensive and more impactful than at any time in our 75-year history. From tackling climate change, boosting economic and building resilience to strengthening democracy, enhancing justice, and protecting peace. The Commonwealth is not only your friend and ally, but your committed and determined partner. And we are working relentlessly across this magnificent continent to deliver real benefits through harnessing artificial intelligence, unlocking climate finance, strengthening our collective voice in trade negotiations, and so much more. This is vital work, and whilst I have no doubt that we will continue to make real progress, we know that in truth it will never end. Not since this continent gave birth to humanity itself has Africa been in a better position to shape the direction of human history and civilization. And it is you, the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the networks, the institutions, and policymakers who hold the keys. And I have an unshakable faith that you will seize the power of this moment with the urgency our collective context demands, and the same energy and purpose which defines the spirit of this great occasion. I offer you my prayers for you, for the government and people of Ghana, and the 1.3 billion people who make up this magnificent continent. We can be the future we choose if we decide to walk together.
What is unique about the Africa Prosperity Dialogue is the recognition by all of us gathered here that the economic integration of Africa is a must and should be one of the most important projects for Africans in this century. Its success or failure depends on the urgency or otherwise with which we see to its implementation. Ghana, the host country of the AFCFTA Secretariat, deems it an honor and responsibility to be providing this annual platform for the private sector to join hands with the public sector and other strategic institutions to work together on how we, with urgency, can deliver prosperity to the peoples of Africa through the effective implementation of the AFCFTA. As I draw down the curtain on this second remarkable edition of the Africa Prosperity Dialogues, and particularly at the beginning of a new year, I wish to charge all of us that the actual work begins when we leave Pediase. This moment is not just the conclusion of an event, it marks the acceleration of a journey, the celebration of our collective commitment, motivations derived from profound insights, and our conviction to these actionable items contained in the 2024 Africa Prosperity Compact, which I will term the Pediase Compact. The discussions held and consensus reached during these past 3 days have been nothing short of inspiring, re-energizing, with particular focus on the actionable takeaways. My sincere appreciation goes to the panelists, including the ministers of state, business executives, entrepreneurs, technocrats from international organizations, experts, and thought leaders who all contributed immensely to how we attain the Africa we want and the Africa we deserve. Just like I did last year, I intend, with the support of my colleagues, to present the Pediase Compact to the 37th Ordinary Assembly of Heads of State and Governments in Addis Ababa in 3 weeks' time. There are items in this compact which I believe can be quickly implemented if we're able to mobilize the needed political will, such as achieving interoperability across Africa. I promise, with the support of my colleagues, to do what we can to make interoperability a reality across member states. let us not underestimate what we've been able to achieve here. For example, we've been able to articulate some specific, tangible, and price-taggable projects that can be put on the table for real action. There are projects like a railway link across Africa, the Grand Inga Dam, which is estimated around some 100 billion United States dollars, and a dedicated airline with long-term financial guarantees to link Africa with the Caribbean. A symbolic but socio-economically strategic transportation system to reconnect families that were divided centuries ago to build together the new and exciting future ahead of Africa and global Africa. Global Africans, estimated to be some 300 million strong, are further estimated to control a collective GDP of some 2 trillion United States dollars. These dialogues reinforce the fact that the dignity of all people of African descent everywhere is inextricably linked to the development and prosperity of the African continent. Their presence here has been most enriching. And I want to assure the President of Guyana that I'll take up the challenge of helping to revive the ACP. It is such a very good idea. I believe in Africa. I believe in the manifest destiny of Africa. And I know that that destiny is in our hands individually and collectively.
And there you have it, highlights of the Africa Prosperity Dialogue. News and events comes up shortly after this break. Don't go away.
Ohima, no me taking number first.
Are you? Didn't you tell you say take the number give me?
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really?
Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Mame, feel me talk mama what?
Batting.
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Fuel up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got hit first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for a
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Goyle is good energy.
Are you an importer or exporter? Do you need quick financing at the best rate on the market? ADB has good news for you. Walk into any agricultural development bank location nationwide for that solution to all your trade financing needs. ADB offers you pre-financing of exports and imports, post-shipment credit facilities, bank guarantees, the issuance and acceptance of letters of credit, documentary bills for collection, outward documentary collection. Enjoy free advisory services from our well-trained, dedicated trade officers. Exporters of agricultural products are encouraged to take advantage of this great service. For further enquiries, call us on 0302 210 210. ADB, making trade finance easy. ADB, truly agric and more. ADB.
And it's a wrap for this week's edition of International Trade Focus. We believe that you enjoyed every bit of the highlights from the Africa Prosperity Dialogues. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Goyle Good Energy, ADB, Truly, Agric and More, Public Elegance and Pediastic Valley Resort. My name is Anna Spio. Join us same time next week. Bye-bye.